The sky is bigger at this time of year.
The context of this song cycle that we're presenting really starts with meeting Michael at age about 13 at Wells Cathedral School, where we were boarders until through our A-levels.
And over.
When I knew him back then, I remember him being unhappy. He wasn't comfortable wherever he was. I just accepted whatever it was that he was. I just accepted him for him.
I did go to the Royal Academy of Music as well, and I graduated from there, and around that time I started working. Then I realised I was in my late 20s then, and seriously running out of cash, and the prospect of being an international soloist was becoming a tricky one.
Made hollow and sick and chill.
And I then went and spent 9 years in the chorus of Bass-Baritone Opera, and then I quit. I handed my notice and walked away from the opera, and I found myself walking into a job as a bus driver in Cardiff Bus, and I quit that when my wife left, my third wife, and I found myself about to be homeless, jobless, with no raison d'etre anymore in Cardiff.
I wept all on my own.
I was aged 41 and I'd had a crashing midlife crisis. There was no question about it. It was a car crash. That summer, I had received my diagnosis of autism, which was, at that point I thought the final nail in a series of nails all around the coffin of my life. And I was at the lowest ebb I think I'd ever been at.
Then stone.
It was a reset moment. Until that point, finding the poetry that had documented my life, I had thought of my diagnosis as a final end failure kind of confirmation. You are a weirdo. You are clinically odd.
Shortly after that, he shared these poems with me. And instinctively, I knew that these songs were very dark, very bleak, very stark in nature. And so musically, there was a potential to have these really incredibly dark moments that catapult us into this amazing light suddenly, which musically is a really useful thing to be able to do. It feels like a very comprehensive diary almost of the last 30 years of Jim's life and describing his own experiences of autism in the most creative way you can possibly imagine.
Finding those poems has literally turned this entire disaster as it was into I would say, approaching a triumph. That's how I feel about the discovery of these songs and our work on them.
There is a bench by a private brook in a silky dreaming river's crook, where the spring sun shines and winks and smiles.
This positive diagnosis of autism gives me the tools I've needed all my life to build a fully functioning life going forward. And I want to share that sense of optimism and share that experience of turning around the negative into the positive through the art and through the poetry that I found.
Filled with brightest burning song. trees all above